So welcome to edition 3 of On My Couch, or What The, and this is a vidcast. The reason why we call it a vidcast is you can watch it wherever you want, basically. So my co-host Sue, what we do is we ask people who are a lot smarter than us about particular topic areas, and to learn more about a particular topic, and then hopefully we can apply it in our work. So my name's Damien O'Malley. I'm the owner of OMC Group, and what we do at OMC Group is we work with individuals, teams and organisations to enable effective change and to achieve outcomes. My expertise is in org design, capability, learning, culture, change management. Sue, my co-host, is a marketing specialist, a senior executive, seasoned practitioner with broad capabilities in strategy development, execution and leading multidisciplinary teams. But that's enough about us. So today our special guest is Linda Wong, and Linda is with us to explore all things startup ecosystems, innovation and entrepreneurship. Linda has over 25 years professional consultancy and industry experience across a range of dimensions. Her strengths, many strengths. I've done some work with Linda. One of her key strengths is the ability to bring together the knowledge she's collected over a career and adapt it to various cultures in circumstances in a non-confronting and a really engaging way. Leverages strong strategic thinking and broad experience in complex environments to execute and deliver outcomes, real outcomes. Dedication to people and teamwork has often seen her leading large change programs to meet the vision and mission of organisations, and great drive and tenacity, really focusing on bringing rigour and clear direction, but also a powerful mix of empathy and support in the work that she does. So I've been fortunate enough to work with Linda to create and deliver some programs for our clients. I also do some associate work with Linda at Runway, supporting the delivery of the MBA program and the Leadership Masterclass as part of the incubator, and also their core offering around Ready, Set, Grow, which we might learn a little bit more about today. Every time I work with Linda, I learn something new. So really looking forward to having this discussion. No pressure, Linda. Really looking forward to having this discussion around startup ecosystems, innovation and entrepreneurship. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and welcome, Linda. That was an amazing introduction. You may not be able to leave where you're seated at the moment. Damien's glowing intro, and I'm sure it's all very true, and we're absolutely going to unpack some of that today. So how about we kick off and hear about the Linda Wong story? And also, in doing some research, I read how you were able to combine your 3 biggest passions: people, learning and horses. So please make sure you add that to your the Linda Wong story.
Well, that's a wonderful introduction, Damien, and great to be here with both you and Sue. So thank you for inviting me on your couch to have this, good discussion about anything entrepreneurial, startup and ecosystems. So the Linda Wong story, it's an interesting one when people ask you, so tell me about yourself, and I think as you age, you tend to reflect a little bit more about, well, who am I? Where did I actually come from? And I would be remiss to not honor my family, I guess, in the telling of my story, because, where I am today and how I got here really does come from, the fabric of where, my parents and, the journey that they've been on. So they migrated to Canada back in the late 50s. Late 50s. Of course, back in that day, coming across to a new country, learning a new language. They migrated from China, actually they were originally from China, but were living in Hong Kong and then migrated to Canada. And, there would have been a lot of challenges that they would have had to endure to actually set up a new life in a new country, learn the language, meet new people, and didn't have any family around. So, I grew up, seeing the hard work that they did. So the work ethic, is definitely very strong. Probably too strong sometimes in terms of not a lot of sleep, but Damien would know that. And also, when I connect it to sort of the people, the learning, and even the horses to where I got to today, there is a really good linkage to it all. So the people aspect really does come from, my dad started a restaurant back then. So at a very early age, I was, introduced to being around people in terms of hospitality, so getting to meet a lot of people, interacting with them. And then my mum being a nurse, and she working in the nursing homes back then. She often brought me into the nursing homes to actually connect with the residents there, so that, there was also an understanding of how to actually continue the engagement with people as they age and stuff too. And of course, with again, coming to a new country, having to build a community, the community commitment, the community aspect of it all was also very strong in terms of the people. So the learning itself, again, with my dad starting new businesses and also eventually my mom doing that as well, and also working really hard, there was always a need to sort of learn new things, right? So the not so much just making sure that, there was a strong education, but also that street smart, getting to really explore a lot of different things, being brave about exploring new things. And that's probably where I get a lot of that want for innovation and creative thinking in sort of what I do now. And the horse one is an interesting one. So we didn't grow up on a farm or anything like that. In fact, we were in a very small town. And again, back then, my parents ended up picking a very small town in Ontario that, we would have been probably the only Asian family around. So we definitely didn't grow up on it and they didn't have the money for me to actually go out and do, horseback riding or anything like that. But my dad always talked about wanting to live on a farm. So, we grew up dreaming about living on a farm, being out in the country. He loved the outdoors. He was an avid fisherman. And so by the time I was probably around 18 or 19, when you actually do get, a bit of spare cash, I actually, sought out horseback riding. And then ever since then, that's become a big part of my life. And I've been very fortunate to, I guess at this point in my juncture in my life, to bring all those three things together in the charity that I've set up with my husband back in 2016 called Hands of Change. And what we do, we live on a property. We have 5 horses on our property. I'm doing a PhD in equine assisted learning, and that's what we actually deliver on our property is equine assisted learning, and our program's called Equihands, and we deliver it to a range of cohorts. So that's my, I guess, story to now. And I came to Australia in 1999, having a very fortunate career in consulting, getting to sort of travel around and work in sort of Canada, the US, Singapore, London, and then before eventually arriving here in Australia. And this is home now.
Wow, well, that is an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing. There's so much of that I could spend, the next 10 minutes just asking you questions about your life story. But congratulations, that's fantastic. So let's talk about Runway's startup ecosystem and what are the components to that, and what does that really mean in layman's terms?
Yeah, so to explain Runway, it's actually taken us a little while to actually get to a point where I've probably been able to distill it down into sort of those 3 components to break it down for people. Runway is all about connecting, and we do that connection by connecting people with people. So, everybody who comes through and deals with Runway, we try and connect startups and businesses with mentors, coaches, anyone else in that network to actually help them work through any challenges or opportunities that they need to. We connect people to spaces. So places, I should say, and we have 2 wonderful physical places, one in Geelong and one in Ballarat, where people can come in. They can, we run events, there's co-working, we've got tenants who have offices within those 2 locations as well. And all of our startups and businesses who go through our programs can actually reside in that space to work if they need to. And then the third part is really about connecting people to programs. And so we have 2 streams of programs, one for startups, one for businesses. And then, so that's really sort of, I guess, the 3 key components towards our ecosystem.
And Linda, we've done some work together, and I've heard you talk about the benefits of startup success and how that enables innovation, and business growth. Based on your experience, what you've seen, the work that you've done, what do you think are the key elements in terms of building that sort of innovation culture, and how does a startup sort of environment help and facilitate that, do you think?
Good question. We've worked with lots of different startups and businesses, and probably the common themes where we see the best success is really down to the person and being able to think outside the box. So the creative and critical thinking is a really key part to innovation and entrepreneurship. The ability to then execute very quickly. So I would call it, everybody sort of calls agile thinking or lean thinking these days. I like to think of it more as being clear and succinct about short sprints of work that you can do. So that's probably a really sort of key success factor. Yep. And the third one, unfortunately or fortunately for a lot of startups, that funding is always important, that cash flow, right? So being able to clearly understand, I guess, how much money you have and sort of the runway before you actually run out of money to actually build a minimal viable product, get out there and test it in the market, and then quickly learn from that and then revise. Yep. Those are probably the key aspects.
Okay, cool.
And obviously talk about startups. I mean, everyone's got hundreds of fantastic ideas. You must have, of the people that come and spend time with you, how do you deal with someone's perhaps concept who probably hasn't got the legs to go forward? How do you manage that process? What's involved, I suppose?
There are lots of different ideas. And of course, we also see duplication of ideas. And I think that when people come through our program, like we don't like saying, no, you're not ready, right? Because I think the most important thing for people to realize when they come through our programs is more to learn about themselves around their journey. And everyone will have a very different journey towards a startup. And also the importance of shared learning, right? So when you come into our programs, we do really promote a shared learning environment. It's really important to learn from each other. Damien mentioned earlier how much he's learned from me, but likewise, I've learned so much from him as well. And that's the importance of what Runway brings, is that ability to connect and learn from each other. So I think the process and the facilitation of us taking them on that journey, even though their idea may not make it, what they actually learn throughout that process may allow them to actually execute on a different idea that's going to be more relevant to the problem that really exists out in the market, and also making sure they've actually got a market to serve. So I think a lot of the times people will come in and they say, I've got this great idea, but really when you break it down for them, it's like, oh, actually, there's actually not a problem out there to solve. And secondly, there's no market who actually wants that problem solved. So those are the two first questions we would actually take them through as part of that process.
Okay, and that's a nice segue. So what's a success story? What's your favorite success story?
Well, I think, look, there's quite a few, but the two that come to mind, I would say, is Camilla Novotna, who owns EcoKit. So Camilla actually was one of the very first businesses, startups, who joined the very first incubator program at Runway back in 2017. And so her business is all about sustainable building systems, where it's about passive houses and passive homes. And so she's developed a building concept to ensure that sustainability is top of mind. It's manufactured now in Australia, in Geelong, actually. And she has gone through her ups and downs, her lows and highs of going through the cycles of, oh, I'm going to shut down. Oh, but no, actually, I can make this work. And she's at, a pretty good high now. And I've followed her journey and, closely, and we continue to keep in touch. And she's got some really wonderful projects up and running now. And you can physically see her homes in Jindabyne and the next one actually being set up in Marysville. So very exciting. And I guess the other one that I've come across is one called Story Towns, Jared Pickford. So we had the pleasure of actually working with Warrnambool City Council, and we delivered a program out there for them called the Ideas Place. And through that process, we had a lot of different startups come in the program. One of them was Jared. Story Towns is really basically taking podcasts to a next level. So it's not just, just another podcast. The storytelling is really about the different regional towns around Australia. And you can follow his podcasts in terms of the different stories. So yeah, those are probably the two that stand out for me.
Right.
Fantastic. Damien, I've been hogging all the questions. So.
Right. I mean, we're speaking a lot on startups. So maybe we shift the focus a little bit in terms of mature organisations, which is some of the work that we've also collaborated on. I mean, how do we bring the sort of that startup thinking, and what are some of the aspects of startup that you think are really helpful in terms of more mature organisations, specifically to sort of help innovation?
We talked about entrepreneurs, haven't we? I think we mentioned that word, but I guess the other really important term for existing businesses is that intrapreneurial thinking, right? So it's bringing that rapid, lean thinking in-house. It's actually creating space within existing businesses to do the research, to actually innovate, to think outside that box, and not get stuck in that day-to-day BAU operational stuff, which is really easy to get stuck into. And if you look at COVID-19 and what's that actually done to a lot of businesses, those businesses who were able to, quickly shift their thinking and actually, either grab a different market or, change the way they offer their products or services or their processes. Those who were able to do that quickly were probably the most successful. And so, there is a culture that you need to support that. There is that way of thinking, but more importantly, you actually need to create that space internally and allocate people and funding to it to be able to do that.
It's interesting. Currently doing one work with one client at the moment, and they're, that's one of the challenges we've got in terms of they're looking to set up an innovation piece within their IT team, and that they've got almost two systems running. So you've got the traditional IT function, which has the sort of the gate process and the waterfall project management system and the business case and all of those types of things. And then you've got the sort of the innovation, which is agile and less rigor. And it's really challenging in terms of how do you facilitate both outcomes, right? Because both are about quality, both are important to the organization. But how do you facilitate that innovative sort of entrepreneur or intrapreneurship within a mature organization? What's your thoughts about that?
The mindset is an important thing. They are really quite two different ways of thinking, and some people are more suited to that more traditional waterfall thinking, and some are more suited to that more rapid, agile thinking. It does require, it's interesting. Some people think that there's not a lot of structure to agile. But actually, there is a lot of structure to implementing agile thinking and sort of that, short sprint thinking. So, the proper training around that is important, the mindset and saying, yes, it's okay to think that way, right? It'd also be quite interesting, I think, for businesses where, it would be a good test case even to say, hey, here's the outcome. It's going to be the same regardless of which way you're thinking, test both methods to see how you eventuate to that outcome, and sort of the process along the way and the pain or the gain that you sort of get along the way to compare.
Okay, cool. Sue, have you a question?
Yeah, you mentioned COVID-19 and obviously the impact that's had on business. and I've obviously been reading a lot about the Great Resignation. So do you think that COVID-19 is going to, as a result, produce considerably more entrepreneurs and more startups as people go, actually, I've always wanted to do this? And one thing that 20 and 21 taught me was you've just got to go for it.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 will definitely introduce new small businesses, SMEs, right? Or cottage industry, micro businesses, not necessarily true startup in terms of the true definition of a startup where you've got unicorns and things like that, right? And I think that businesses, in terms of organizations, big or small, are going to have to allow flexibility for your staff to have a side hustle. And I think that, we encourage at Runway our staff to have a side hustle because it really does provide that innovative, creative thinking. It gives them that also experience around, when they're talking to startups and businesses, the lived experience as well. So, and I also do think that, for businesses to have staff that can have a side hustle will also create probably a stronger want to do more within that organization as well. So I do believe that that COVID-19 will bring more of that. I'm already seeing quite a bit of it, which is interesting. Yeah.
Have you got a side hustle, Sue? Is that where that question is going? It's something we haven't talked about. Is that what's going on?
Well, I was actually thinking I've got this idea for a pot holder and how to wheel pot plants around. But when I've discussed it, everyone just laughs at me. So, maybe that's my side hustle, developing a movable pot plant. There you go.
Sometimes the ones that people laugh at are probably the best, the gems in the gold, really. So, yeah.
Which is actually, it's a really interesting point, Linda. I mean, and Sue sort of touched on that before. I mean, and I suppose that's the benefit of applying sort of some of that startup methodology and the lean canvas and the like, is really around actually testing. Is Sue's idea, is it viable? Is it feasible? And is there a market for it? So that's sort of the main tool that you use at Runway, and is that lean canvas model, isn't it?
Yeah, the lean canvas, business model canvas. So the lean canvas probably more for your startup, startups or starting a new business. And then the business model canvas really is ongoing, even for startups, right? Yep. So yeah, we use both canvases. They're used in both our startup programs and our business programs.
Yep. Okay, cool. Sue, have you got a question? Anything?
So I was really just sort of thinking, I mean, you felt like you've probably done an oral university exam or something like that having spoken to Damien and myself. But this is your chance to give us sort of an unashamed plug for Runway and how you can help individuals and organizations, and where does someone go to learn more about what you do if they think that there's an opportunity for them to play in this space or learn from what we've been talking about.
Yeah, look, I'll always give a plug for Runway. I'm happy to do that. Look, I always come back to those three core elements that I actually mentioned right at the very beginning in terms of, what Runway actually is. And really, our purpose is to support entrepreneurial and innovative thinking in regional communities. And we do that through those three things. We connect people with people, we connect people with spaces, and we connect people with programs. So if you have a need if you have an idea and you just don't know what to do with it, then we have the startup program that you can join. You can join a boot camp, which is a 2-day boot camp, or you can join our incubator program, which is a 6-month program where we actually take you through the paces of making sure that you've actually got an idea that's validated. There's actually a problem that you need to solve, and you've actually got a market there or customer that actually wants that problem solved. And then we'll help you work through your building of your MVP and then a launch of that at the end of the program. So whereas if you're already an existing business, so a going concern, but, whether it's COVID or, whatever other challenges, market challenges that you've been faced with, and all you think you've got right now are challenges or maybe even opportunities, then we've got our Get Ready, Get Set and Grow business resilience and growth program that you can join. And you can join that through some of our partner affiliates that are actually offering the program, or you can contact us just via our website or social media and inquire about one of those programs itself. And then if you have a need for coming into the space, like if you need some place to work and you don't want to, spend a lot of money and getting a permanent office space, you can try our hot desking in either Geelong or Ballarat. Or if you have a need for a closed office, again, you can use either of those locations. And then if you need any coaching and mentoring, again, we can offer that as well. So those are probably the three key areas.
And I think, Linda, also just to highlight, in terms of the, the program delivery, right? So while we've talked a lot about sort of the physical presence in terms of Ballarat and Geelong, but, certainly the RSG, the Ready, Set, Grow programs really can be done, anywhere, can't they?
Absolutely. If, unlike, as with any other business, Runway had to make a shift in our way of delivery and thinking as a part of COVID-19.
And did you say you pivoted?
Yes, I'm trying to avoid that word so strong. So we, at the start of COVID, we basically turned all of our program content online so that our programs can be delivered nationally. So you can be anywhere really and actually join our programs. The way we deliver it is that all of the content is available online in our online learner management system called Open Learning. And then we supplement that with the online group Zoom sessions. So both our incubators, our boot camps, and our RSG programs are delivered that way. And then with the RSG program itself, the very last part of it, which is the grow component, we also supplement that with one-on-one coaching, because that's really about helping the business execute on the opportunities that we help them unearth.
Terrific, great, thank you. And so, always great, Linda, to talk and learn from you. As I mentioned before, what you've got me thinking about today is that there's a really good discussion around what's going to happen post-COVID, and Sue's question around, the reality is we're probably going to see more people thinking about, that I've got this idea and maybe informed by the Great Resignation, or maybe informed by other drivers actually giving that a go. So I think that's going to be really, really fascinating to watch. And also really it's going to be interesting around the organisations, certainly the more mature, more traditional organisations, how they create that environment where it's okay to have a side hustle. So, one of the things that got me thinking about is that potentially the side hustle could be of benefit to that organisation. So how do you create the culture where people are actually being innovative and potentially creating something for the organisation and for themselves as well? I think that might be a nice sweet spot for organisations to focus on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sue, what about you? What was your takeaway?
I was just thinking, the fact that you focused on regional and again, reading everything that is out there, there's also not only the Great Resignation, but the Great Migration. And regional areas of Australia have often been, don't have access to the sorts of systems and learning tools and processes that you can provide. So, I think that's another great opportunity. The migration piece is going to cause, as we've talked about, some of those people with those great ideas, they're not going to be doing it from their home in a capital city. They're probably going to be thinking about, well, how can I achieve both a lifestyle change, but also a earning capacity change, or just doing what you've always wanted to do. So that's what I found, and the fact that there's people like you doing all of that for regional Australia is really something to be incredibly proud of. So congratulations, Linda. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been fun. It's been a ride. Yeah. But yeah, thank you very much.
So, Linda, final words from you. Any advice if someone is, got that, inspired, thinking about their idea, or maybe they've got an idea for something to do with moving pot plants around the house. So, what would you say to hypothetically someone like that?
Yeah, well, I would say don't keep it in your head. The worst thing you can do is actually keep ideas in your head. Go and talk to a few people, test it out, explore it, and start writing things down as well. Because again, I always find the connection when you write something down, it actually almost sort of commits you to sort of say, I'm going to do something about this, right? Pin it up on the wall or something. Eventually you'll get to it, depending on what your priorities are, but it won't be forgotten anyways.
Terrific. Linda, thank you so much. We could keep on going, and we could almost have as Sue talked about, we could almost have another conversation around the work that you're doing with horses and learning more about your PhD. So thank you so much for your time today. Sue, good to see you again. Our next on the couch is we're going to have Dr. Sarah Leach, and who's a very experienced senior executive, predominantly within the health industry, but across many facets. And we're going to explore a topic that I'm specifically unqualified to talk about, which is actually leadership from a female perspective in organisations. So that's going to be our next on my couch. So Sue, anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just thank you, Linda. A fascinating conversation. Really appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you for inviting me. We'll see you later.
All right, terrific. And final comment from me is we gave Linda a plug, OMC Group. If you want to learn more about us, you can have a look at our website, which is omc-group.com.au. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on our couch. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.